Heyo, kiddos. This is Thursday, November 15th, and we have an ice day right now. But we still have the quiz coming up tomorrow, and I was hoping that this might be able to help some of you. I would say make sure you have gone through and read the poems before you watch this, or it's not going to help you a whole lot. If you've not done the e-learning for today, go do that first. If you do that first, it'll make your life a lot easier because you'll be familiar with the poems. If not, you can still watch this. It'll help somewhat, but if you've not done anything and have no idea about the poems, then this is just going to end up confusing you. So just figure out to help you out. It's not quite as much fun as doing it in front of the class and having you guys have conversations with me and having us talk, but at least I can run you guys through what's going to be on the poems and for the quiz and at least try to help you somewhat. Figure it's better than throwing you into nothing. So, we'll make do with what we can. I figure we're all sitting at home in our PJs today anyway, so we'll do our own awkward bonding as best we can. So we'll throw a little happy, wee, and a little yay at you. All right. So, jumping in question one, says, what is the subject of the following sentence? After we win the game, my team is going to buy pizzas for a celebration. If you're finding the subject of a sentence, the first thing you're going to have to do is go through and figure out all of the nouns. So in this particular one, we have the nouns of we, because it's a pronoun, game, team, pizzas, and celebration. Those are your nouns in this sentence. And then you have to figure out of those nouns which ones are actually going through and doing the action in the sentence. And so in that one, if you go through there, the celebration is what's happening, so they haven't doing it. The pizzas aren't doing a thing. And it comes down to the game is not doing a thing. So it really comes down to we and team. And in there, who is doing the actual thing. And so what makes it kind of tough is if you're know your Magic Lindsay stuff, this little comma thing right here, that means that anything coming in front of that comma you can't really use, and even though we and team both refer to the same thing, it makes it tough, but typically that comma means that this is an introductory clause, which is kind of 8th grade, but for the most part, realize team is going to be the one that is actually doing something here. That first part we can just sort of remove. You have my team is going to buy pizzas for a celebration. So who or what is doing all the action? My team is doing all the action. So hopefully that one helps. That's something I'll be able to find the subject. That's what you're going to have to do. Find all the nouns and then figure out which noun is doing all the action in the sentence. So there you go. Team, the one that's right up there. I guess if any of these confuse you, you're always welcome to pause it also, and that might help you out a little bit. So you can always go through, pause it, and sort of figure out things from there. Question 2. What would be a strong, non-globy, literal definition of this idiom? So first of all, you have to know what the two definitions are between the literal and figurative. And hopefully doing the project would help. I'm planning on handing back your homework that you did tomorrow. So before the quiz, you will have your idiom handout to look at. So hopefully that'll help you on this too. But regardless, you should hopefully know the literal is the one that is the word for word, where you are taking it literally, which means the sort of the funny definition. So not the one we know it to mean, but when we do sort of the funny part of it. So we have, before the musical started, poor Jimmy felt awful with all the butterflies in his stomach. For a handful of you, this should be easy, because I graded all the idioms last night, and some of you chose this one for yours. So if you had no idea what this would mean, you'd have to come up and figure out something for butterflies and something for stomach, and so you'd have to do a synonym for both. So you'd have, before the musical started, poor Jimmy felt awful with all the, I don't know, what's something for butterflies? Flappy bugs in his internal food container. I think is what I did. So you'd have Jimmy felt awful with all the flappy bugs in his internal food container. Although there's every chance you did not come up with internal food container, but whatever works for you, same idea. So that's how you do a literal definition. So on the quiz tomorrow, you're going to have to figure out the literal definition for an idiom that I give you. So make sure you know the difference between figurative and literal, and then make sure you know the rules about not being able to reuse some of the words and stuff like that. It's basically going to come down to, can you figure out and can you follow rules? See, all the flappy insects in his internal food pouch. I thought that's what I came up with for that one, so that works for me. Question 3. This goes to the poem Birdfoot's Grandpa, which once again you're going to need to go back and take a look at for this to make any sense. It says, in Birdfoot's Grandpa, what evidence in the poem can we use to prove that the speaker does not like what the grandpa keeps doing? To help you out, let's take a look at the poem. So here's our poem where it says, the old man must have stopped our car 24 times to climb out, gather into his hands the small toads, blinded by our lights and leaping live drops of rain. The rain was falling and mist about his white hair, and I kept saying, "You can't save them all. Accept it. Get back in. We've got places to go." But leathery hands full of wet brown life, knee deep in the summer roadside grass, he just smiled and said, "They have places to go to, too." Really is a good poem about the idea that every life matters, regardless of who or what it might be, even if they're little dorky people or little bugs or insects. The fact that everybody deserves to live. Overall, what the poem is trying to say, because you have these toads that are on a road getting run over, but then you also have this teenager who's upset about the grandpa who keeps stopping, and the teenager's like, "Listen, let's do our own thing. Who cares about other people?" It's the idea about being selfish versus caring about other people. I really like the overall idea of the poem. By the way, hopefully you watched the video I sent out in the e-learning thing, where it explains to you up there why it's called Birdfoot, because it's a Native American, and so this idea about caring for other people, and so that's where it comes from. Birdfoot is just the name of a grandpa because sometimes they have Sitting Bull, those kind of names. But anyway, back to our thing here. It says, what is our evidence that the speaker does not like it? So you have to look through the poem and figure out in here, how do we know that he is not enjoying it? See, in the first stanza, you could maybe use this one where he sounds kind of upset about it. And I kept saying, "You can't save them all." That'd definitely be a big part of it. Accept it, get back in. We've got places to go. That whole section right there would all work. Probably just that whole part. I think I'd probably aim towards that area as our evidence that he does not enjoy it. So, what evidence in the poem can we use to prove that the speaker does not like what the grandpa keeps doing? Calls him old man. I would use that. Saying we can't save them all. Saying we've got places to go. So something along those lines. What I want you to be able to do is in the poem, go back and find evidence to prove things. That's the big thing I'm going to have you have to keep doing. Go back, find evidence, prove things. See how that helps you out. In the poem, Birdfoot's Grandpa, the poet keeps stressing that the toads are living things, live drops of rain, wet brown life. Why does he feel the need to do this? And so that's more of an understanding about the poem, what it's trying to get across, and the fact that all living things are important. And he keeps stressing the fact that he used toads because a lot of people find toads ucky. Now, if you don't, go you. You're more important than other people. But a lot of people find them as a disgusting thing, and he's trying to prove the fact that just because little froggy things, let me see, froggy things, froggy thing, just because it's a little froggy thing or a toady thing doesn't mean it's disgusting. So so the drivers will always watch out for frogs, to remind us that even toads are still important, to show how brave the grandpa is with slimy things, or because the toads were all wet in the rain. Well, from here, if you paid attention to my earlier explanations, one of these goes to that overall theme the poem's trying to get across to us. It is not so that drivers will watch out for frogs. Although you could probably go for that one. I could see that'd be my tricky one, trying to throw you off. It has nothing to do with show how brave the grandpa is with slimy things. So between our two left, we have remaining. Which one would you go with? Because the toads are all wet in the rain. So I'm going to go with, once again, here to remind us that toads are still important, even if they're disgusting. Just like dorks are important, or whoever it is, whatever social group you want to make fun of, they're still important, even if you don't like them. It doesn't matter. They still have the right to exist. So whether it's a social group, or whether it's a race or a gender or something like that, they are all important. They all have the right to exist. Don't be hating on anybody. Don't be a hater. All right. And then we can move forward from there. I'm not sure it popped up again. I apologize. So going to question 5. What is the rhyme scheme of the first stanza in the poem Annabel Lee? So on the quiz, you're going to have to figure out the rhyme scheme for a poem. So let's take Annabel Lee as an example as we go through and do one. So with Annabel Lee, what is it that every first line always ends with? That's right. We have an A. And so then you have to go to the next one. We have a go. Does C rhyme with that? C and a go do not rhyme, so that gives you a B. Does no rhyme with C? No. Does no rhyme with a go? It does. So we have A. Lee? No. Lee? C? Yes. So that brings us to B. Thought? Thought Lee? No. Thought no. Thought no. Thought nope. So we're going to go with C there. And then we have me, which goes with the Lee and the C. So there you go. So your rhyme scheme is going to be A, B, A, B, C, B. So be able to figure out a rhyme scheme. That's what I'm going to throw at you tomorrow on the quiz too. Question 6. from the poem Little Things. Once again, I sent you a link on today's e-learning where I explain the poem Little Things. So take a look at that and hopefully it helps you. So it says, using our best understanding of what the poem is trying to teach us, what are the trespasses the poet refers to? If you watch the video, this is a pretty easy question because once again, here's the poem where it says, little things that run and quail and die in silence and despair, little things that fight and fail and fall on sea and earth and air, all trapped and frightened little things, the mouse, the coney, hear our prayer, as we forgive those done to us, the lamb, the linnet, and the hare. Forgive us all our, here's where it says trespasses, little creatures everywhere. And this is going to be a reference, an allusion, I know I keep using this word, allusion, to something you already know. And this whole thing is supposed to sound like the Lord's Prayer. The one that says, the one that little kids say before they fall asleep at night, that's the Lord's Prayer. This is an allusion, a reference to that. And in that one, the trespasses, in that one, in the Lord's Prayer, means sins, the things you do that you're not supposed to. So here, it's going to be trespasses that humans do against all of these animals. So what sins do humans do against all of these animals? That's what you're trying to figure out. So, which of these are going to be sins or trespasses, bad things we do against all of these little animals they talked about? Is it making the air unsafe for birds to fly through, polluting the water that kills the fish, building homes where the animals try to live, hunting the animals just for sport, or all of these are trespasses against the animals? So you have to go through and figure out, is this something that we do against animals? Making the air unsafe for birds, well, we definitely put pollution into the air and make it horrible, so I would say that one could work. Polluting the water that kills we definitely pollute water and that kills the fish. Building homes where the animals try to live, that would definitely be as much of a trespass as you could possibly do, so that'd be against them. Hunting animals just for sport, we don't even need them, we just want to put their head on a wall. We trespass in their area and we kill them, so yeah, that would work too. So pretty much, there you go. All of these are trespasses. These are all things we do against little animals to be mean to them. 7. From that same poem, using evidence from the poem, why would the author not include a bobcat or lynx? If you don't know what a bobcat or lynx is, I got a little picture for you down here. They are a wild cat, which looks like a cat, but it'll jump on your face and rip it off and wear it as its own face. They're horrible, mean little creatures. So why would it not fit into that poem? Is it does not live in forests? It can defend itself if attacked. It is not small enough to qualify. It cannot fly, so it doesn't count. Once again, you have to go back and look at the poem. And so it says little things. Let's see. So we're talking about, it's right there in the title, so it has to be small. That's part of it. That run and quail. Quail, if you watch the video, does not mean the bird. Here it means to be scared and quiver and be freaked out when things come. And die in silence and despair, meaning that we kill them and they can't fight back. There's nothing they can do. They're just oppressed. Little things that fight means they fight back and they fail. They can't do anything because they're useless. Like, you're not worried about a chipmunk coming at you like, oh no, it's a chipmunk, roar. You'll just laugh at it and like kick it. And they fall on sea and earth and air. So meaning we're talking about things that die in water, things that die on the ground, things that die in the air, all those things that fight us and fail. That's the big thing, is important there. All trapped and frightened little things. The mouse, the coney, hear our prayer. This is a mouse. This is a rabbit. So they're saying that even though you're trapped and we kill you, please, humans are begging your forgiveness as we forgive those horrible things that are done to us, those other sins that are out there. The lamb, which is, a little fluffy thing. The linnet, which is a bird. The hare, like a little bunny rabbit. Forgive us all our trespasses, little creatures everywhere. So all of those have something in common. So now looking back at the question, what is it that has in common? It does not live in forests. Well, it did talk about the fact that they could live in the air and then water, so that should not matter whatsoever. Let's see. It can defend itself if attacked. That could definitely work. It is not small enough to qualify. Well, that is pretty small overall. It's not a huge creature. And it did say little things. So that's one that maybe could work. It cannot fly, so it doesn't, well, yeah, it said it doesn't worry about flying. So those are the two tough ones you have to work out. So now you have to go back to figure out what was the overall theme of the poem. And the overall theme of the poem is the fact that we kill these creatures and they cannot fight back and defend themselves. And so the fact that we're saying, forgive us for being evil to you. And so being small enough does touch on it, but that's not the main theme. So here's that whole thinking thing that's kind of scary. And so you have to go back here. So the overall idea is it can defend itself if attacked. And so since it can defend itself and it can go all rawr, rawr, then that means it's not going to be included. Because it can fight back, it does not get put into the poem. That's why it is not included. Question 8. From the poem I'm Nobody, which again, I sent out a link in today's e-learning to try and help you understand it. Which of these themes best connects to what the poem is trying to get across to us? So you have to understand what the poem says. So we have be kind to all the little animals, ignore everything and focus on eating, nobody is important so don't really try, or being popular can cause unhappiness. Here's what the poem said. It said, I'm nobody, who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd banish us, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public like a frog. To tell your name the livelong day to an admiring bog. Again, this comes down to figuring out what the poem is telling us. So basically saying, I'm nobody. When someone says that I'm nobody, they're basically telling you what? That they're unpopular in some way. And they're saying, are you nobody too? So they found a friend. And so we have a friend. Then there's a pair of us. They banish us. You have to know what the word banish means, which means to, junior high life means to be mean to you, to mock you, to bully you, to do bad things. So basically, don't let the popular kids know. Don't bring attention to yourself because then they're going to attack you. So basically it says, ooh, it's kind of upsetting to be a nobody or unpopular because the popular kids will attack you. So you have to make sure that you stay on the down low. So you'd think, well, it must be perfect to be popular. And you get down here and it says, how dreary to be somebody. Well, if a nobody means unpopular, then a somebody means you're cool. And so, Mr. Broviak, what does this word mean when it says how dreary? If you don't know what dreary means, dreary is sort of like what it looks like outside for me right now as I'm recording this, where it's all gray and nasty and depressing and upsetting and not very good out. I mean, it's exciting the fact that we're not at school, so yay, high five. But at the same time, it's dreary when you go outside to look at things. So that's dreary. So basically it's saying how upsetting to be somebody. Mr. Broviak, why would it be upsetting to be a somebody? It would be awesome. Well, the idea here says how public like a frog to tell your name the livelong day to an admiring bog. Well, one, you also have to know what a bog is, which is like a swamp or a pile of nasty. So the idea here is if you're popular, you're constantly worrying about what other people think about you. You're constantly stuck in the swamp of everyday life. And so that's what the idea of what a bog is. So the idea of you don't want to be popular because it's stressful and it's upsetting and you're constantly worrying about what other kids are saying. You constantly have to be posting to social media because if not, then you're going to be judged for things. At the same time, you have to worry about being unpopular because the kids are going to make fun of you. So sort of like try to stay right in the middle. Be happy with who you are. Don't worry about being unpopular. Don't worry about being popular. So when it comes down to which of these themes best connects to what it's trying to teach us overall? Let's see. Be kind to all the little animals. No, that's just seeing which kids paid attention at all. Ignore everything and focus on eating. No, that's a different poem. Can you remember what poem that one's talking about? Nobody is important, so don't really try. Maybe. Being popular can cause unhappiness. So basically you're going to come down to which one of those two do you think best works. Nobody is important, so don't really, I'm not really sure it says don't really try. This one's more, I threw that on there just to see if you would find the word nobody and just be that kid that randomly grabbed was like, yeah, it says nobody, so that's obviously the right answer because it's in the poem. When really, even though it doesn't use any of those words, that's what the overall theme is. So it goes back to your understanding and paying attention. So I'd say that's probably your best guess. 9. From I'm Nobody, using evidence from the poem will be the best guess as to who the speaker in the poem is. So going back to who is speaking, a principal that all the students hate, a friendly kid on the basketball team, a popular outgoing girl in the play, a dorky kid who doesn't talk to people. So once again, here's your poem. I'm nobody, who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us, don't tell. They banish us, you know. How dreary to be somebody, how public like a frog, to tell your name the livelong day to an admiring bog. So there's one line in here that's going to tell you pretty much who the speaker is. Which line is it? Put your finger on it. It was a trick. You paused the video. No. So it's going to be that first line right there where it says, I'm nobody, who are you? And you have to remember back to what is it nobody means, and it does say I, which means it's our speaker. So which of these is going to refer back to that? So a popular girl, can't be that one. A friendly kid on the basketball team? Maybe, but probably not making the best thing there. A principal that all the students hate? I mean, if it says I'm nobody, so it means we don't like them. But I'm going to go with, of those two choices, the one that's probably going to work the best is your dorky kid that doesn't talk to other people. Ooh, from Caterpillar on question 10, you're going to have to go back to figuring out what a refrain is. And so going back to sort of figure out how refrains work and stuff like that, this would be, once again, in your notes. Do you remember what a refrain is? Did you write it down? No? Then a refrain is a small animal that likes to bite kids' toes in the hallways, which is why you always have to wear shoes and not slides. If you did write down what a refrain is, then this makes things easier on you. So what is the refrain of the poem Caterpillar? I'll show you the poem in a second. But is it old man's looking glasses are a type of flower? I'll mind my business has two meanings. The fifth stanza means he becomes a butterfly, or the line under the sloop of honeysuckle. Well, if you remember what a refrain is, my 4 smart kids listening to this, the refrain is going to be the whole idea of a line that gets repeated multiple times in a poem. So looking in here, you're going to have to try and find which line gets repeated multiple times in a poem. There is really only kind of one line that gets repeated, and then one that gets kind of repeated but changed a little bit. So as you read through the whole poem, I'll give you a moment. You can pause. Pause down there. Welcome back. I'm assuming you just got done reading the whole poem. Did you find the one line that repeats? Hopefully you did, where it says, under the sloop of honeysuckle, under the sloop of honeysuckle, they connect a rondo. Brings us to, what is the best refrain line that repeats? Old man's looking glasses. Nope, that's just seeing who paid attention. I'll mind my business, seeing who pays attention. Fifth stanza means he becomes a butterfly, who pays attention. Under the, nicely done. Knowing what a refrain becomes pretty easy. 11, from Annabel Lee, the author repeats the E sound throughout the entire poem. Why? Why is this sound repeated so many times? What is it supposed to remind the reader of? So the whole thing, you have as you go through the poem, you have Kingdom by the Sea, Lee, me, see, Lee, me, see, Lee, me, see, Lee, we, see, Lee. And so you'll see the fact, you'll see the fact that it keeps repeating that same sound over and over and over again. It's supposed to be doing two things. One, who is it that the speaker cannot stop thinking about? That's what it's supposed to remind you of. So you had the fact that it reminds you of Annabel Lee and the fact of how hard he tries, he can't get her out of his mind. And then speaking of minds, that whole is supposed to be the slow thing, like him like losing his mind and going insane. It's a little bit of both. Yeah, it reminds the reader of Annabel Lee and the fact that the dude can't stop thinking about her and the fact that he's slowly going insane. So that's where that whole E sound gets through there. I figured you'd figure out the Annabel Lee part. The losing his mind is just a bonus if you figure that out. And then 12, why does the speaker believe the angels have such a strong need to kill the woman he loves? This just goes back to the whole did you pay attention to the poem thing. So he knows it's just what all angels do. It wasn't their fault the sea demons did it. To make sure angel love is always the best. It was revenge because they're human. So as we discussed in class going through it, let's see, it was revenge. No, they didn't do it because they're human. He does talk about sea demons, but definitely does not say it wasn't their fault. He knows it's just what all angels do. I mean, it is what these angels do, but it doesn't explain why these angels did it. And so it goes back to the idea of they wanted to make sure angel love is the best love, so they have to get rid of them to make their love weaker. There you go. This is pretty much what the quiz is going to be about. So I sort of walked you through each step of the whole way. If you listen to this, then you should have a pretty good grasp, and that's going to help you. If not, then I guess you're not listening to this. It's not really going to make a difference. Anyway, my goal was to try and help you guys out as best I can. Sorry the video turned out a little bit long, but I get rambly. Fast forward as needed, although that probably doesn't help you now anyway. Do the e-learning assignment. I tried to find something somewhat not awful for it because I didn't want to give you guys just busy work. So I tried to find an e-learning thing where I figured haiku are pretty easy. If you watch the videos and you know what's going on in the poems, then it should take you all of 10 minutes to write those haiku. Plus, it's going to give you a chance to review them and know what's going on in them. So that's what I was aiming for in some way. So I wanted to try and find something that would not make it awful on you. So in theory, I tried, but who knows? Maybe I failed. I didn't want to give you guys too much extra work. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Try not to get hurt in the ice out there today. All right. Check ya.